Hi, my name is Kim Shea and I'm with Aging Purposefully. And the point of Aging Purposefully is to try and show you ways of aging that you might find inspiring if you're trying to figure out what would be a good fit for you and what would work best for you in your life. And today I have with me Fay McGrew, and she is a Qigong teacher. So welcome, Fay.
Thank you.
How long have you been studying and teaching Qigong?
I've been studying Qigong for almost 40 years and teaching for over 20 years.
And what do you get out of it being a teacher versus being a student of it? What has been the lesson for you, or what do you feel like has been the benefit for you being each of those?
Well, it's very interesting. To be a teacher, you must continually be a student. Because there's no, like in Western thinking, going to academic schools, you reach a certain point and you go on and on and on. And then there comes an end cap to your needing to go to school anymore. But that's not the same with Qigong. It's really a life practice, and it's you can keep going to your last breath. So, but basically, the difference of being a student and a teacher, when you're trained to be a teacher, you learn more background information. You learn how to really analyze what you're teaching from many different perspectives. You learn how to teach, how to deal with students with something as personal as people respond individually to Qigong practice.
Okay, so that's interesting too, because then you're also learning while you're teaching.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as we say in Qigong, you're fixing the bike while you're riding it.
Oh,
so you're going through a self-healing. It's not like you're trying to get to a certain movements. That's Tai Chi Chuan. That gets confused with Qigong. This is, as you're going through, it supports your self-healing. So it's a very interesting experience. So you keep growing. And the movement's very simple, so it's not like you learn different movements to advance. You just keep practicing what you have, and internally you respond differently through time.
So for somebody who doesn't know what Qigong is or has never heard of it, but maybe they've heard of Tai Chi or they have heard of yoga, so could you explain what the difference would be? For what sets Qigong apart from those other practices, or maybe martial arts would be a good comparison. How would you explain what Qigong is?
Okay, well, and it's true, that's a lot of people's reference point to it, so I'll address that, and then I'll talk how I explain Qigong initially to people. Some people say Qigong is a martial art. That's historically not true. Today, people use the internal cultivation for martial purposes, so they call it that. And some people call that Tai Chi. But Tai Chi is that yin-yang symbol, the black and the white with the opposite dots. That's what Tai Chi is. It's Tai Chi Chuan that's the martial art.
Okay.
So when people are saying that, it's just being in our culture, not really knowing all the background. In terms of, as I mentioned before, Tai Chi Chuan is a martial art. It's newer than Qigong in Chinese history. And it does use some of what Qigong does, developing your life force energy. But it also, to help with your maintaining your health and improving your health, and somewhat the healing process for certain things, more on the physical level than on the internal level. But it's but it has no historical roots in Qigong, as some people claim. But it's more well known because there's more access to it, even in China, until recently. So that's why people confuse it. It's slow movement and all that kind of stuff. In terms of yoga, there's a misconception in the West about what yoga is. So when you say yoga, as most Westerners do, our understanding of it is primarily through Hatha yoga. Hatha yoga is the movement part of yoga. But Hatha yoga is only one small part of the huge pantheon of what yoga teaches. So there's the meditation part of yoga, there's the breathing part of yoga, there's achieving enlightenment part of yoga. So, so I answer that most people have access to the hatha yoga, those movements to it, and the movement's totally different. Especially in America, because I started this in 1970 when even yoga wasn't well known, and now we're in the 2000s now that almost every gym has yoga, and everybody's doing yoga, you know, all these movements. So that's the perception that the movement's the most important. You're stretching, and there's hot yoga and warrior yoga, and there's all this stuff going on.
Goat yoga. Have
Goat
you seen
yoga,
goat yoga?
I've absolutely seen it, and I can't wait to try it. That and cat yoga too that they have, but it's. Yeah, so well, God bless America. You know, this happens when you bring in the arts like that. But it's a lot more yoga is than what it is. So I'm trying to be a purist with Qigong, and so today, so Qigong historically was part of a longevity practice that came through Taoism. And so what it included was the movements called Dao Yin, and that's translated to mean to stretch the body to receive the essence. So that sounds like hatha yoga component to it. But the movement part has to do with the energy body. That's the same as an acupuncture. Acupuncture actually comes from this, the understanding of the energy body. We're talking a long time ago. So that was one part, the movement. The second was meditation. The other part was sleep patterns and nutrition, all seasonally. You switch around the seasons because animals, their respiration changes. It's slower in the winter, the hibernating time. Well, it's also the same with humans. So we have electricity, we have supermarkets, we have everything. So we get further and further away from being in harmony with nature. And look what happened to the environment, just saying. But so these practices happen. So I change my curriculum. The acupuncturist also changes how they treat you through the seasons, depending what it is. So it's all in harmony with nature. And when we do that, that improves our health, our well-being.
That's really beautiful because it is so. I mean, everyone uses the word holistic very freely now, but this truly is a very holistic approach to living. And then you were telling me that when you go to a doctor, your health results are very special as a result of what you've been doing. Can you tell me that?
Yeah, it's the whole health thing is a discussion. But when I go, and a medical technician is measuring my heart rate, my resting heart rate, and what else is it? It's basically that in my heart, and my circulation, my respiratory rate. My numbers come up as if I'm a long distance runner. So because we focus, that's one of the meanings of Qi, like is breath. It's similar to prana. Actually, prana and Qi have the same definitions for it. So there's three parts of Qi. One is the breath. So we focus on the relaxation breath exercises. The second part of the Qi is our life force energy. That goes to the next step. We start to feel this. So science can measure this now, and I'm very excited that my Qi has been measured. I'm involved with the neuroscientists at UCSD and California Institute of Human Science because my Qi is so strong. They can read it on this new technology. So it makes their machines look good. But so that's the other part, the life force energy, what the acupuncturist is activating when they're giving you a treatment with the needles. We activate that in Qigong. And the third now, science has a name for it. It's proven, which is quantum energy. It's the energy of all energy, and it's connecting with that energy. So that's what Qigong and the full breath of yoga practice actually does too.
So this is a really healthy thing for someone. I mean, this is ultra healthy in terms
Yes.
of
Internal.
taking such good care of you.
Yes, and so I was mentioning about why they were concerned about my heart rate and my respiratory rate, because somebody my age, it's a sign that something's wrong. Like I have a prolapsed diaphragm or something like that. I had a colleague that happened, and they said, you know, like what's going on? I said, I do Qigong. And they go, well, what does that mean? And when I explain it to them, then it makes sense.
Huh. So that does make sense. And then that's good for your overall health picture.
Not only that,
going down the road.
it helps to heal quicker. I heal the speed of light. I had a fracture in my arm in June, and I went to the osteopath, who was amazed how quickly I healed. My mobility went right back. I mean, like, and he goes, well, don't you tell when you go to your Qigong classes, your teachers, what you're doing? And I said, no, I really don't have to, because again, with me getting my arm back up there, that's not the point in the movement. The movement is to relax so the energy moves. And when the energy moves, the physical body is going to follow. So there was no need to tell them, because they're not looking that my arm's going to be a particular way. It's the intention of the movement that's more important, which is why this is so wonderful when people are healing or aging, that you could come in a wheelchair, you could come in with a broken arm, and as long as you're not in pain, and participate and still feel a result from it, because the mindfulness is so important in Qigong.
So anybody can do Qigong. So if they're in a wheelchair or a walker or they have arthritis, they could still do some level of participation, even if they're brand new, 70 years old, they can still do it?
Yes, and I also teach at Camp Pendleton to the wounded warriors who have missing limbs, and they just love it, or traumatic brain injury. Because it's holistic, as you mentioned, the experience, because it's the focus in Western medicine, which we want, crisis medicine, there's something wrong, fix it. And that's necessary in crisis medicine, but you forget everything else, so you have all these side effects from meds or treatments, because you're focusing on one thing, the primary thing that's wrong. If it's life and death, that's what you want. But it generally comes in with general treatment, that it's that way too, forgetting everything else. So that's why these, when your circulation improves, when you're taking medications, for example, it'll help them move quicker. It'll also let you know right away if that medicine is not right for you. You'll know it straight off before getting side effects. So so you can discuss that with your healthcare provider.
Okay. And you don't have to be a certain religion.
No, it's not religious at all.
Okay.
Oh, no. In fact, what's so beautiful, the meditation that we do, the guided imagery in particular, which I love. I learned it in China from the masters there, and China is not that modern People's Republic of China isn't so thrilled about organized religions as we know, and so the guided imagery we follow particularly is in this neutral language that you can just fill it in. So it's not competing with anything you might feel, your spirituality, your religiosity in it. It just is, because it's so open, and it becomes internal, becomes something meaningful for you.
I've been to one of your classes before, and what was really striking was that, first of all, there's a strong sense of community with your students, because they've probably been coming to see you for a while, but they know each other, they know you, and so there's this very warm and inviting feeling in your studio that you're part of this wonderful community of like-minded people who are trying to better themselves. And the other thing was, I was surprised at how physical it was, not to be deterring to somebody who thinks they don't have energy, but it's all very slow movement, but afterwards you feel like you did some exercise, not like you were on a treadmill, but you just feel like you used your muscles and you breathed, and it's really a very peaceful form of exercise, but that fills you up in a different way.
Absolutely, and you burn energy in a different way. So a lot of with hatha yoga and with other definitely martial arts and cardio workouts, they say don't eat anything. You can drink, but come on an empty stomach because of what's happening so quickly. But here, you definitely have to come nourished and hydrated because, as you experience, you are burning energy, but in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's something that people should try. And you are teaching so many different people. Like you said, you're teaching young wounded warriors, and you're teaching senior citizens, and everybody in between. And you have a good following. Whenever I interview somebody, I like to think about the different boxes that they are ticking off for themselves, and in terms of aging purposefully. And for you, you've got a sense of community. I know you're still studying Qigong in addition to what you're doing just as part of teaching it. You're also actually continuing to study more. Yeah. And so you're keeping your brain active that way. You're getting social feedback from people and belonging to a group. You're also having some spiritual growth all the time, which they say is so good for keeping dementia symptoms at bay. Even if you had it, you might not ever exhibit it in your lifetime because of all these things that you're doing. You're getting physical exercise as well, and it seems to me you're doing everything really right. Do you see a point where you would decide this isn't something that you would want to do anymore, either teaching it or even participating in it by yourself? Is there a time when you think this wouldn't be a part of your life?
Every time that thought even comes to me, something comes up, and immediately it's like, oh yeah, no. There's just done. Too much. There's just too much to go, and especially not so much here, but in Chinese culture, older people are respected for the wisdom, and also energetically as well. What happens as our physical body starts to slow down, and you need to slow down, as you know. You need to relax and take naps. It's not this go go go. It's not good for our health. So it's a very good way to keep your higher consciousness going. Just energetically, when you're not so much focused on the physical body, and you're starting to, so resting and slower movement and all that is necessary. It's not a negative. It's just listening to yourself, which is very important. It helps to enhance your higher consciousness.
So with all that, do you feel like you are aging purposefully?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm really really enjoying it, especially since I'm studying, as you mentioned before. I finally had an opportunity to study with this teacher who I really wanted to for a long time. And my other teacher who I study with finally has the time to teach a lot. So I am studying it. I am hitting the books. I have to be prepared. I mean, I haven't, it's been decades since it's been like this. So it's just very stimulating and very exciting. And I share this with my students.
Yeah, well, I think you're an aging hero. I think you are. And I just think you're doing everything right. So thank you for taking the time to have tea with me and talk to me. And I will put information so people can contact you in case they're interested in taking up Qigong and coming into your studio and maybe taking a class and seeing if that's a good fit for them.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Fay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.